So honoured to be with you, delighted to be with you here this morning. Thank you so much for doing me the honour of asking me to speak at your Green Convention. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a guest in Coast Salish territory. The Canadian Greens have always been such an inspiration to the Green Party of England and Wales that it's a very special pleasure to be with you and to bring you greetings from your sister party across the ocean. I bring you greetings, but of course I also bring you huge congratulations as well. Congratulations first of all on your extraordinary election successes, most recently in New Brunswick. It is so exciting to see the way that you're going from strength to strength, the way you're riding that wave with such elegance. So huge congratulations for that. It really does feel that the time has come for the Canadian Greens. And congratulations, of course, as well, for the role that you played in the historic success last month in stopping the construction of the Trans Mountain Pipeline. Now that success has inspired people all over the globe and has given us all that incredibly precious commodity, hope. And while it was only possible because of the extraordinary leadership of the First Nations, and because so many people from so many campaigns came together to work together, I'm going to take the risk of embarrassing my dear friend Elizabeth May by saying how proud Greens are all around the world of your leadership and of your courage. Because you showed the process by which the pipeline was approved was fraudulent, it was completely against procedural fairness and environmental justice. You showed that it is the Green Party that has the courage to fight big corporations, to fight the government, to take peaceful direct action, whatever the cost, and to win. And you showed that it's the Green Party that can always be trusted to stand with all those fighting to protect their environment and to say loudly and clearly that the only safe space for fossil fuels is deep in the ground. Now, being prepared to put your body where your beliefs are is a hugely powerful act. And maybe that's why governments right around the world are doing their very best to stifle protest with increasingly harsh crackdowns. In the UK just last week, 3 peaceful protesters against fracking were imprisoned for 16 months. These are people with no previous criminal record who simply had stopped the trucks coming into the fracking site, criminalised for 16 months. And that decision to give the green light to the fracking up in Lancashire was given by the government on the very last day of Parliament. In other words, in order to avoid any kind of democratic scrutiny or accountability. What a cowardly, cowardly act. So I am proud to say the Greens will always stand up for what we believe in. I'm proud that although we will never take it lightly, nonetheless non-violent direct action remains core to our approach. And I'm proud that we will continue to challenge the criminalisation of dissent. As I reflect on the huge amount that just 1 or 2 elected Greens can achieve, it leads me to imagine yet again what we could do if our numbers in parliaments around the world genuinely reflected the true wishes of the populations. In other words, if we were not battling the archaic, unjust and out-of-date abomination which has first past the post voting system. I speak with some passion on this subject because I know what it's like to be the lone Green MP out of a parliament, in my case, of 650. It is lonely. It is incredibly hard work, as Elizabeth will know, but it's also incredibly important. You know, in the UK, in the general election of 2015, over 1 million people voted Green. Now that 1 million votes, if it had been under a proportional system, could have delivered over 20 Green MPs. Now that would have been transformative. Instead, in our warped and unjust system, it meant that just again, we had just one Green Party MP elected. Now I know that BC will have a referendum on getting rid of first past the post this fall. And I just want to say, please get out there and win it. You need to win it, not just because it gives the Green Party a better chance of winning in elections, although of course it will do that. Not just because a healthy democracy depends on an active citizenship, although it does. Not just because electoral reform leads to far more diverse parliaments, more women in parliament as well. But because it is ultimately toxic to a political system to have governments who do not represent the people, and to have people who feel utterly silenced and ignored by their governments. It is toxic, and it is dangerous, as I think the rise of right-wing populism around the world shows, and as the example, sadly, of what's happening right now in the UK demonstrates as well. You know, I don't believe it's too much of an exaggeration to suggest that if the UK had had a fair voting system over the last 10 years or so, Brexit might never have happened. And the reason I say that is because Brexit was, more than anything else, a roar of anger from communities who have been ignored by politicians for far too long, not least because, under first past the post, their voices don't get heard and their votes don't get properly counted. Politicians don't need to listen because first past the post, those elections are won by targeting the small number of swing voters, the ones that haven't made up their mind, in the marginal seats. And as far as the rest of the population is concerned, well, they can go hang. Now, the slogan of the Leave campaigners in the Brexit referendum was, "Take back control." And on the very day after the referendum, the Green Party was already making the connection with our voting system, arguing that if the referendum was really about taking back control, well, you know, a very good place to start were to take back control of our antiquated, undemocratic, unjust electoral system and replace it with something an awful lot better. But I'd ask if you would indulge me just a little bit further as I explore what that Brexit votes means, because it is sending shockwaves, I think, right across the world. And for those with very short attention spans, or if you've been asleep for a couple of years, I've got a very short summary. It's from the British comedian and enfant terrible Russell Brand on the TV news last year. You know what's coming, so I apologise. When he was asked what led to the Brexit vote, he answered, "People saw a bright red button that said, 'Fuck off establishment,' and they pressed it." And with apologies for that F word, which does crop up an awful lot in Brexit debates, interestingly, I think Russell Brand had it absolutely right. Similarly, the musician Brian Eno, who sums up so well the sense of utter bewilderment that many of us experienced in the immediate aftermath of that referendum result. And he said, "My feeling about Brexit was not anger at anyone else. It was anger at myself for not realising what was going on. I had thought all those UKIP people, those National Front people, were in a little bubble. And I thought, no, it was us. We were in the bubble. We didn't notice it. There was a revolution brewing, and we didn't spot it." Now, there's been a huge amount written and a huge amount of analysis already done about what stoked the fires of that revolution. We have a commission on social mobility, for example, which reported research last year when they identified 30 so-called cold spots in the UK where social mobility is at its worst. And they pointed out that in every single one of those 30 cold spots, guess what? They voted for Brexit. Now, I don't think that's a coincidence. That referendum result, that Brexit vote, frankly had very little to do with the EU. It had everything to do with domestic policies, with austerity and the strain on public services, on the scapegoating of immigrants for their perceived role in exacerbating a housing crisis or a health crisis. Now, all of those domestic issues are issues that a government could have been forced to address if they'd been forced to listen. In other words, if we'd had a voting system that sent a clearer message at the ballot box through a fairer voting system, we would never have got into the situation that led to Brexit. And the tragedy is, of course, that all of those issues around the health system, around housing, all of those issues will be so much harder to address if we do go ahead and leave the EU on the 29th of March next year. Now, I've been asked to speak about the importance of electing Greens to all levels of government. And the fact that we stand up for true democracy, I think, has to be one of the answers. We listen to our voters, we listen to the citizens, we make sure their voices are heard, we do politics with them, not to them. And there are plenty of other reasons too. But one of the most important is that you can always rely on Green Party politicians to speak truth to power. If we were just interested in power, believe me, I think we would have found a shorter cut of getting there. So take the climate crisis as the most urgent example. The leaders who gather for the next round of climate talks at COP24 in December will do so knowing that they quite literally hold the future in their hands. Earlier this year, the temperatures in Europe were lower than those in the Arctic. Now that is more than a temperature anomaly. It is an off-the-scale event. The Arctic, 20 degrees warmer than usual. Now that should be front-page news, but it barely gets a mention. Even here in BC, where those wildfires have wrecked lives and livelihoods, on too many occasions the link with the climate crisis isn't being made forcefully enough. So friends, if our job is to speak truth to power, we must break the silence over climate change, because complacency is an even greater enemy than denial. And we must also demonstrate that the policies we need to tackle the climate crisis are positive ones for jobs, for innovation, for our health and for well-being. And that's why Greens around the world are championing those alternatives to fracking and fossil fuels and tar sands, and are in the forefront of making the case for a whole range of renewable energies. We're showing that a green economy not only reduces our dependence on carbon-intensive technologies, it creates hundreds of thousands of good jobs right across the country. We're demonstrating that social and environmental justice are intimately linked. Retrofitting homes so that they're properly insulated not only cuts our carbon emissions, reduces our fuel bills so people can afford to stay warm. It is an abomination that in the 5th richest country in the world, in the UK, we still have thousands of people dying every year from not being able to keep themselves warm enough. But more than anything else, Greens are the only ones, I think, who truly understand the centrality of the environment to our overall political approach. We know that you can't simply bolt the environment onto business as usual. We need to recognise that the entire way we do business has to change. In other words, we're not just thinking outside the box, we're throwing the whole box out the window and starting again. So I want to tell you about the book that changed my life. It was a book called Seeing Green, written back in 1984 by the extraordinary environmentalist Jonathan Porritt. It was the first book that I had ever read that set out such a compelling case for a new kind of politics. It was one of those light bulb moments. I vividly remember I was living in a very grotty bedsit in Clapham in South London at the time. I finished reading the book, I turned the book over, and I noticed that it said what was then the Ecology Party was based in the Clapham High Road. In other words, just half a mile down the road. So this was a sign, obviously. So I marched out of my bedsit, up and down the Clapham High Road, looking for what I imagined would be a big office with a plaque on the wall. And strangely couldn't find it. Eventually, I found a kind of broom cupboard above a Chinese restaurant. But I joined up, of course, straight up. And what Jonathan Porritt wrote back then is, if anything, even more relevant today than it was 30 years ago. And he writes this: opposition to the dominant worldview cannot possibly be articulated through any of the major parties, for they and their ideologies are part of the problem. Green politics challenges the integrity of those ideologies. It questions the philosophy that underlines them. and fundamentally dispute the generally accepted notions of rationality. And he might have added, really frankly, that when humanity refuses to recognise that it's in the process of destroying itself, we have no option but to accept that the present political system simply isn't fit for purpose. It's flawed in a huge number of ways. It's short-termism, it's silo mentality, the fact that all too often it's open to corporate capture. But most of all, I think our political system today is utterly and fatally dependent on more and more economic growth at any cost. It's the be-all and end-all of all public policy. Everything has to be measured. Does it increase GDP or does it not? And the fact that GDP and people's well-being are not intimately related after a certain level of basic needs being met is apparently by the by. As Professor Tim Jackson has put it, questioning growth is deemed to be the act of lunatics, idealists and revolutionaries, but question it we must. And the case I'd make this morning is that our lives, quite literally, might just depend on it. And yet when I raised this issue in Parliament, when I put it to my colleagues that the current model of our economic system isn't working, I'm met either by total incomprehension or absolute hostility. And indeed, reference to lunatics, idealists and revolutionaries are probably among the more polite terms that are used behind my back. And the problem is this. To mainstream politicians and economists, our impacts on the biosphere, that fragile membrane in which life occurs, those impacts are treated as so-called externalities. They're not factored into economic calculations. The living world exists outside the realm of market exchange and therefore outside the traditional economic models. Either that, or perhaps even more worryingly, it's reduced to just another interchangeable component of the consumer economy that can be traded off against something else. As the neoliberal economist Milton Friedman put it, ecological values can find their natural space in the market just like any other consumer demand. In other words, the awkward fact that all human life would immediately end without a healthy natural world is essentially someone else's problem. For today's neoliberal economists and politicians, nothing's meant to get in the way of an economic model based on digging resources out of a hole in the ground on one side of the planet, persuading people to buy them, then dumping them a very short time later in a hole in the ground on the other side of the planet. Now, whether or not those things were actually useful to people who purchased them in the middle of that model is completely irrelevant. As long as marketing has persuaded us to part with our money in exchange for goods, the interests of humanity have been served. The faster we do it, the more successful the economy is deemed to be, and the greater, apparently, the sum of human progress. And the advertising industry clearly has a key role in all of this, persuading us that we're not good enough, or beautiful enough, or sexy enough, unless we buy the latest gadget. As Professor Tim Jackson has it, it's all about persuading us to spend money that we don't have, to buy things that we don't need, to make impressions that don't last on people we don't even care about. So the accelerating use of raw materials, which requires the accelerating degradation of ecosystems, is recorded as a triumph, and reduction of resource use is a failure. And in that story, of course, success means that we are destroying ourselves. And so as Kate Raworth, the British economist, puts it, instead of economies that need to grow, whether or not they make us thrive, we need economies that make us thrive, whether or not they grow. And that, in a nutshell, I think, is why we urgently need green economic thinking. Thinking that recognises that there's nothing natural about our current economic arrangements, and they're not even creating well-being or making us particularly happy. To the contrary, all too often they're creating dysfunctional and unequal societies, and if it continues in the same way, it will make large parts of this planet unfit for human habitation. Now, fortunately, research also tells us that the fact that happiness and well-being, once a certain level of basic needs are met, do not depend on endless economic growth of the kind that we have today, this resource-intensive, carbon-intensive growth. Rather, happiness and well-being depends, as we already know, on contented families, on strong communities, on meaningful work, on personal freedom. Not many people on their deathbeds look back on their lives and think, oh, I wish I'd spent more time in the office. You know, they're more likely to think, I wish I'd spent more time doing the things I really cared about. So we need to do things differently. and very soon. And as well as changing the policies, I think we also need to change the political story, the narrative that goes alongside them. Because stories are the way in which we navigate the world. They allow us to interpret its complex and contradictory systems. And when we come across a complex issue and try to understand it, what we look for is actually not consistent and reliable facts, but a consistent and comprehensible story. We ask ourselves whether something makes sense. Does it reflect the way we expect humans and the world to behave? A string of facts, however well evidenced, will never dislodge a powerful story. And you can't take away someone's story without giving them a new one, a better one. And so I think our challenge is to develop that better story and to learn how to tell it. Because if we do, then I think we have the potential to capture the minds of people right across the political spectrum. And it turns out that psychology, anthropology, evolutionary biology can actually all help us in this task. Because research in all of these fields suggests that human beings are not naturally the aggressive, competitive individualists that we've been induced to believe we are by neoliberal politicians and economists and journalists. We are, among mammals, interestingly, the supreme cooperators. We possess unparalleled sensitivity to the needs of others. You know, most people would prefer to live in a world in which everyone is treated with respect and decency, and where we don't have to exploit our natural environment. And if we can mobilise those silent majorities, we can rekindle our imagination and rediscover our power to act. And then we can start to make those bigger changes happen all the sooner. And we know what some of the ingredients of those policies are. To name just a few, it's very clear that we need to leave the vast majority of fossil fuels in the ground if we're to have any chance of avoiding 2 degrees warming, let alone 1.5 degrees. So that means no more fracking, no more subsidies for fossil fuels, no more Kinder Morgan pipelines, and instead a significant investment in green technologies and renewable energy and energy efficiency. Tax reform. It's a mouthful, we need a better way of explaining that, but essentially it's about internalising external costs in the price of goods. Taxing things we want to discourage, like pollution, rather than things we want more of, like employment. In a sense, it's about getting prices to tell the ecological truth. End the madness, for example, that sees flying, or far too often in Europe at least, far cheaper than taking the train, even though aviation is a far greater threat to our climate than any other form of transport. We need to introduce a basic income scheme and limit the range of inequality in income distribution. So we need to stop. Exactly. It's probably one of those neoliberal journalists on the phone. Introducing a basic income scheme, reducing inequality. I was going to say that in Brighton, the constituency I represent, the local Greens on the council there have taken serious steps forward to introducing a maximum 10-to-1 ratio between the highest paid and the lowest paid in different organisations and businesses. I think we could really talk about real freedom, like moving to shorter working weeks with the paid work that's available shared out more fairly. You know, you don't need to look through our manifesto to know that what we're talking is ambitious stuff. It will need a major shift in the priorities of politicians and the expectations of the public. It will mean a revolution by what we mean by progress and how we measure success. And it will mean demonstrating in real, tangible terms that the zero-carbon society toward which we aspire is one which is so much more attractive than the fossil fuel economy that we leave behind. So we need to be positive about the future, even at times when it can be hard. Martin Luther King, remember, inspired us with his dream, not his nightmare. So we need to go out there and inspire people with a vision of a better world. And it reminds me of my favourite cartoon, which if I'd had the thought and the wit, I would have got projected up there, and I didn't. But anyway, if you can imagine my favourite cartoon, it shows a professor standing in front of a whiteboard in her lecture theatre, all the students in front of her, on the whiteboard behind her, she's written up all of the advantages of moving to a zero-carbon economy, doing things like properly insulated homes, fewer people living in fuel poverty, local healthy food systems, more time out of the office, more affordable public transport, kids playing safely in the streets again. And one of the students has their hand up, and the speech bubble coming out of the student says, "But what if climate change is a hoax and we've created a better world for no reason?" Well, making a better world is what we are all about, what green politics is all about, my friends. So how do we get there? Well, a fairer voting system certainly would enable smaller parties to have a louder voice and get a better chance of achieving change. But political parties can't do it alone. We need the greatest mobilisation of public support ever seen. The divestment movements, the environment movements, the social justice movements will all be critical in pushing politicians to act and demanding a politics fit for our time. One that recognises that climate change isn't just an environmental problem, but the greatest threat to our collective security that needs to be treated with at least the same degree of urgency as a more conventional military threat would elicit. We need a politics that is honest with the electorate, one that will be clear about the scale of the threat that we face and about the scope of the changes that we need. Ours is the first generation, I think, to properly understand the damage we've been doing to our planetary household, but probably the last generation with a chance to do something transformative about it. That is a terrifying responsibility, but it is also an awesome opportunity. We know full well, as an international community, that we do have the technology, the know-how, the finance, the science, to end extreme poverty, to live in balance with the natural world, should we collectively choose to make that happen. We don't have to go down in history as the species that spent all its time monitoring its own extinction rather than taking serious action to avert it. The only thing that's missing, as we know, is the political will. And that's why I come full circle and say that is why green politics, the politics of life, is of such vital and urgent importance. And that's why we so urgently need to elect more Greens at every level of government. And so in conclusion, friends, good luck with the referendum on voting reform, good luck with all of the elections coming up and next year, also next month in Vancouver, and know, please know that our global green family stands strongly together. Know that we are strong from being united in our values and trustworthy in our principles. Know that we are stronger still from speaking truth to power and from our willingness to stand up time and time again for what we believe in. Thank you.